Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing a an anatomical dissection of personal transformation. We're looking at the strategy that promises to make you 10x hotter, mentally, spiritually, and physically. It tackles self-mastery from all angles. Yeah, our source material is this really fascinating guide. It's put together by a content creator, someone with a psychology background. And they offer this specific 14-step framework. It kind of throws manifestation, hard site concepts like nervous system regulation, and even deep spiritual ideas into one big blender.
It really does. It's a very holistic blueprint.
Exactly. And we want the key insights.
Right. So our mission today is really to analyze how this whole thing is put together. We're tracing the connections, between the high-level psychological stuff, dealing with chronic anxiety, trauma, and then these ancient spiritual practices. They specifically mention Kabbalah.
Interesting.
Yeah, this integrated philosophy. And we want to deliver that core understanding, basically, of how these seemingly separate concepts actually build on each other.
And for you listening, these nuggets are just a massive shortcut, aren't they? Instead of you wading through dozens of different self-help things, you kind of get the blueprint for the current integrated approach. And it immediately shows those surprising, almost like counterintuitive links between, say, regulating your nervous system and how you actually look.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really have to start with the foundation, which this whole strategy centers around. Restriction. And this is a definition we need to nail down straight away because it's got nothing to do with restricting calories.
No, nothing at all. It's purely psychological. It's about restricting your automatic reactions, right? Restricting those habitual negative thoughts and restricting the behaviors that are actively feeding your old self. It's really the ultimate act of discipline. It's aimed at stopping those patterns that actively stop you from becoming the person you want to be. And to make it clear, the guide gives this example of trying to overcome an ex-partner. You just can't move forward if you let every little thing, a song, a place, a random memory, start you ruminating, right? That makes sense.
So restriction here means the second that old limiting thought pops up, you stop it immediately. You consciously choose a replacement thought, maybe focusing hard on a business goal or affirming a future relationship you want. You restrict that path of least resistance.
And that seemingly small psychological act, it connects directly to this really deep spiritual concept, referencing Kabbalah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spiritual angle sees restriction as building the vessel. This guide really emphasizes that you can only build this capacity through, difficulty and hardship.
Okay.
The challenges we face in life. They're seen as the exact things we need to overcome to build a vessel strong enough to actually hold the success or the love or the wealth we're aiming for. So restriction is choosing that hard, disciplined path now. That builds the capacity for the new life later.
So the key takeaway then is that urge to just doom scroll or engage in those low-level vices. It isn't just wasting time. It's like actively refusing to build the capacity for your future success.
Absolutely. That impulse to just switch off your brain and scroll. It's a low-frequency behavior. It feeds the old, undisciplined self. Every single time you restrict that impulse, you're strengthening your vessel and raising your overall energetic frequency. And this is exactly why consistent meditation is framed as non-negotiable in this system. When you meditate consistently, you eventually raise your baseline frequency. You get to a point where those addictive, low-frequency things just become, naturally undesirable. The creator talks about how after just a week of consistency, you feel like a different person.
Yeah.
But they also warn you need that momentum because the second you fall off, the vices get easier to slip back into and restriction feels way harder.
That momentum point is crucial. And it leads us right into the next foundational piece, the state of your nervous system. The guide points out this really sobering thing. You can get all the external success, the money, the travel, the relationships, but if you're living in this constant state of anxiety, maybe from CPTSD, you can't actually feel it. You can't enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's happening there with CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is your nervous system is basically stuck on. You're always hypervigilant, always scanning for danger. Your body literally thinks it's still fighting a war.
Wow.
And because it doesn't feel safe, it physically can't relax enough to let you experience real happiness or contentment. Doesn't matter how successful you look on the outside.
And that explains why just, sitting meditation often isn't enough for someone whose nervous system is really dysregulated. Your body's just too tense. It doesn't feel safe enough to let go.
Precisely. That's where somatic healing comes in. healing that actually brings safety back to the body through physical methods. The specific techniques mentioned are things like EFT tapping.
Emotional freedom technique.
Right. That can help with emotional blocks and TRE, trauma release exercises. Though, the guide does note, if the dysregulation is extremely high, even getting the body to do the shaking and release the stored trauma can be difficult at first.
Okay, so the really crucial insight here then is that the regulated state itself becomes the main reason you stay disciplined. You're not forcing yourself. You just want to get back to that feeling, that new normal.
That's the powerful feedback loop. If you've been dysregulated for years, anxiety just feels, well, normal. But once somatic work helps you actually experience that elevated, regulated state, you have something to compare it to.
A baseline.
Exactly. And that natural desire, you could even call it a high, to get back to feeling safe and regulated. That's what provides the consistency you need for all these healing practices. It's not willpower alone.
Okay, so if we accept internal regulation as step one, the next big test is how we handle external expectations. We need to shift gears a bit, talk about the physical and external side, because the source reveals this major pitfall when we try to perfect the physical.
Oh, this section is absolutely compelling. The creator shared this story about moving to Dubai. Apparently, these advanced beauty treatments, things like salmon DNA injections, PRP.
Platelet-rich plasma, right.
Yeah, stuff that's usually really expensive, were incredibly cheap and accessible there. So because the prices were so low, the thinking became like, okay, I'm fine now, but why not be even more perfect?
And that story about the cheap treatments backfiring, that's the ultimate lesson in leave well enough alone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Driven by that anxiety that more has to be better.
It was totally counterintuitive, almost like a punishment.
Yeah.
Every time they tried to improve something that was already okay, some new issue popped up that wasn't there before. Like a minor injection caused popped veins, or a treatment led to this stubborn perioral dermatitis.
Wow.
And it just highlights the problem. This constant, often unnecessary search for a better version is often driven by underlying body dysmorphia, or BDD.
This ties right into the psychology around cosmetic surgery, doesn't it? The guide mentions Joseph Murphy's book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. If the real root is an insecurity about your nose, just fixing the nose doesn't always fix the belief system.
That's the absolute core of it. You might get the nose job, but that insecurity can linger because the subconscious belief, I am ugly or I'm not enough, was never actually dealt with.
So it's like mental surgery first.
Exactly. The analysis is that these individuals need plastic surgery of the mind first. And this isn't just theory. The creator mentions that some specialized clinics, in Australia apparently, now make patients do like 10 sessions with a psychologist before they'll do a major procedure like a nose reconstruction.
Really?
Yeah. They recognize that fixing the physical doesn't automatically fix the underlying conviction about oneself.
That takeaway is pretty stark then. Your external reality isn't fixed by changing your appearance, but by changing your internal conviction. If you believe you're ugly, you'll perceive yourself that way. The example of Megan Fox is powerful there. Globally seen as beautiful, but she identifies as highly body dysmorphic. It just underscores that internal belief dictates your reality, regardless of external facts.
And this brings us right back to validation. A key piece of self-mastery is learning not to constantly chase external approval. And maybe even more importantly, learning not to over-explain or justify your actions to everyone.
Right, that's self-security.
Yeah, it's built internally. And as the guide notes, it often just naturally increases with age and self-trust anyway.
Okay, let's move into the more practical stuff, the foundational consistency. We start pretty simply with health as wealth. The gym is non-negotiable.
Yes, and not because you need to become some elite athlete, it's because it guarantees that 1% daily progress. It stops you from sliding backward. It's just an easy win that makes you feel accomplished every single day.
Makes sense.
But the real act of self-mastery in this section, I think, comes down to the sleep schedule rigidity.
Okay, this sounds intense. It goes beyond just get enough sleep, right? This is about making it an absolute boundary.
Absolutely. The source really frames this as a kind of biohacker approach. Prioritizing sleep is the ultimate act of restriction against all those temptations, late nights, social events that run late.
Why so strict, though?
But because poor sleep apparently sets off this catastrophic chain reaction. You get low concentration, which hurts your work or income. That increases stress. Then your physical health degrades, disease risk goes up, and you just fundamentally feel poor. So rigorous adherence to a sleep schedule, it's positioned as the linchpin that prevents that whole domino effect. Non-negotiable.
Okay. We also have learning as a consistent practice. The idea that mental decay is a real thing if you stop challenging your mind after school or if your work isn't mentally demanding.
Yeah, the prescription is just constant learning, online courses, reading. The guide specifically suggests using affordable platforms like Udemy. They mentioned getting access to thousands of courses for something like $80 USD a year.
Wow, that makes it super accessible.
Totally. It removes that barrier.
What?
Mental elevation becomes easy to access.
And the principle of restriction pops up again when we talk about refining style. This is about restricting those impulse buys,
Mhm.
the ones based on fleeting trends you see on social media.
Right. The problem with just chasing trends, those Pinterest or TikTok outfits, is you end up with a closet full of random stuff that doesn't go together. It fuels constant buying cycles, clothes end up in landfills, and frankly, it can look kind of cheap overall.
So what's the refined approach?
Restricting purchases. Focusing only on staples that fit a cohesive, curated style you've defined for yourself. Making sure every new item can actually be integrated into multiple outfits you already own. The result,
Yeah.
a look that's genuinely classier and put together.
Moving towards social confidence now, we land on autonomy. This is about doing things on your own time, not waiting around for anyone else.
Yeah, this is presented as a direct confidence builder. The creator actually credits solo travel. They mention a specific trip to Shanghai with fundamentally changing their outlook on life.
Big claim.
It is, but it translates down to smaller things too, like
Yep.
trying a new restaurant by yourself, or even going to a theme park alone, even if it turns out not to be that fun. The value isn't necessarily in how much fun you have.
It's the act itself.
Exactly. It's the self-reliance and the autonomy you build just by doing it.
And that autonomy seems linked to seeking out challenges for proactive growth. There's the example of committing to a mini triathlon sprint that's, 750-meter swimming, 20-kilometer cycling, 5-kilometer run, as a way to actively stimulate yourself, push yourself, even if you're not naturally athletic.
It's the commitment to the structure of the challenge itself.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what strengthens the vessel we talked about earlier.
Okay, this brings us naturally to the final category, and this one requires, maybe a significant conceptual leap for some. Energy hygiene. Let's pause on that because we started this deep dive really grounded in psychology, CPTSD, nervous system stuff. How does our source justify making this jump into concepts like regular cord cuttings? That might be challenging for some listeners to square with the science bit.
Well, it's framed primarily as a necessary form of boundary setting, especially for someone like a high-visibility content creator who is just constantly absorbing attention and energy from others.
Okay, boundary setting.
Yeah. So the guide suggests these regular cord cuttings monthly for the creator, maybe every 6 months for the average person.
Yeah.
The idea is to remove energetic ties built from all that external input. They specifically mention things like men's lust and women's envy, which are claimed to affect things like reproductive organs and your overall energetic flow. Now, for the listener who wants a more integrated view, you could maybe see this as extremely rigorous attention boundary setting.
Got it.
And supplemental practices are maybe more accessible. Things like scrubbing yourself with salt in the ocean once a week, doing salt foot soaks 3 times a week, and prayer for protection. The core idea is pretty simple. You need to actively, physically, and mentally cleanse the external stuff you absorb.
And that cleansing leads us straight back to the beginning, doesn't it? To meditation. The source says consistent meditation actually strengthens this protective energetic field, which links directly to the final critical step, protecting attention.
Right. If basically every technology, every system in a modern world is designed to distract you, to pull you off your path, then losing control of your attention means you're losing control of your entire life's trajectory.
So the key to getting back control of your brain is
Meditation and, practicing point 1, restriction. You actively restrict the input that's designed to derail your focus. It all loops back.
wow. We really have covered a massive scope here. From the deep psychological discipline of restriction and healing the nervous system, all the way through the traps of physical perfectionism and energetic boundary setting. So what does this all mean when we put all these pieces together?
I think the synthesis is actually pretty clear. True sustainable transformation, that mental, spiritual, physical 10x change, it's top down. You absolutely have to prioritize the internal regulation and discipline first.
Internal first.
Yes. Build that restrictive vessel, heal the nervous system, nail down the foundations like sleep and learning before you start chasing external fixes, whether that's expensive beauty treatments or seeking validation from others. The internal state dictates the external reality. It's not the other way around.
And we started with that idea that the vessel is built through hardship. The source suggests we can only really bring in the new life, the new self, through difficulty. So if we start viewing the challenges we face, not just as painful obstacles we need to avoid, but as necessary, almost like structured building blocks for the person we want to become, does that fundamentally change how we approach difficulty?
It's a powerful reframe, isn't it?
It certainly raises a really important question, something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.